You might recognize this from everyday life. You are doing fine on paper. You show up on time, you handle your responsibilities, you pay your bills. And yet, every now and then, you meet someone who does not seem more successful than you on the surface, but something feels different. They speak less, they move slower. And somehow, the room seems to adjust around them. At the time, it is easy to assume they must have more money, better connections, or some advantage you cannot see. That belief feels reasonable. We are taught that status comes from income, titles, or visible success. Fast forward a bit, and the confusion grows. You earn more than before. You upgrade a few things. But the sense of control and ease you expected does not arrive. Meanwhile, that same person still looks unchanged. Yet people listen to them more and treat them with quiet respect. If this feels familiar, you are not missing something obvious, and you are not failing at the game. The real question is not why they seem different. It is what they are operating by that most people never notice. There is a set of behavioral signals at work here, not loud ones, not expensive ones. Subtle patterns that quietly communicate stability, confidence, and status long before money ever speaks. My name is Alex, and today we are going to break down those patterns calmly and clearly. By the end of this video, you will understand the behaviors that signal upper-class thinking and why they change how people respond to you, even without wealth. This matters because if you misunderstand where status actually comes from, you can spend years chasing upgrades that never deliver the respect or ease you are expecting. If this already sounds uncomfortably familiar, tap the like button so the algorithm knows this kind of clarity is worth sharing. Calm under pressure. The first signal shows up when things do not go as planned. A delay, a mistake, an unexpected problem. Most people react immediately. Their voice tightens, their body speeds up. You can feel the urgency in the room. Upper-class behavior moves in the opposite direction. When pressure appears, they slow down. Not because they do not care, but because panic never improves outcomes. Calmness is not passive. It is controlled attention. They assess the situation, separate what matters from what does not, and respond only to what they can influence. This matters because emotional reactions are expensive. They lead to rushed decisions, unnecessary conflict, and poor judgment. Calm people preserve options. They keep leverage. They give themselves time to think. You see this in small moments. A delayed flight becomes a logistics problem, not a personal crisis. A disagreement becomes a discussion, not a confrontation. A mistake becomes something to fix, not something to dramatize. Over time, people notice this pattern. Calm under pressure signals reliability. It signals stability. It signals someone who can be trusted with responsibility. Money can solve some problems. Emotional control prevents many of them from happening in the first place. Calm confidence, not performance. The second signal is confidence that does not announce itself. There is no need to impress, explain, or dominate the room. The posture is relaxed. The voice is steady. The presence feels settled. Most confidence people see is performative. It fills silence quickly. It talks louder than necessary. It pushes opinions forward before they are asked for. That kind of energy is usually driven by insecurity, not strength. Upper-class confidence works differently. It does not rush to speak. It allows pauses. It listens fully before responding. When it does speak, it is measured and intentional. This matters because confidence without urgency signals internal security. There is no fear of being overlooked. No need to prove intelligence or value in real time. Silence is not threatening when you trust your own position. In conversations, this shows up as restraint. They do not interrupt. They do not overshare. They do not chase agreement. Their body language communicates belonging without effort. People respond to this instinctively. Calm confidence creates gravity. Others lean in, listen more carefully, and assign authority without being told to. True confidence is not louder. It is quieter, steadier, and harder to ignore. Precise, intentional speech. The third signal shows up in how someone uses words. Not how much they say, but how carefully they say it. Upper-class communication is clean. Short sentences, clear ideas, no verbal clutter. Most people speak to think. Words spill out while they search for meaning in real time. Filler phrases, over-explaining, and constant qualifiers signal uncertainty. The listener feels the lack of control immediately. Upper-class speech moves in reverse. Thought comes first. Words follow. There is no rush to respond. Silence is allowed. When they speak, the message lands without extra weight attached. This matters because language reveals mental order. Precise speech signals clarity, emotional regulation, and respect for the listener's time. It also reduces friction. Fewer words mean fewer misunderstandings. You hear this most clearly in disagreement. Instead of reacting, they acknowledge the other view, then state their position calmly. No sarcasm, no theatrics, no verbal aggression. Over time, this changes how people listen. Clean language earns attention. People trust speakers who do not need to talk in circles to make a point. Control of words reflects control of thought, and control of thought is a quiet form of power. Clear social boundaries. The fourth signal is not about warmth or friendliness. It is about limits. Upper class behavior is defined by clean boundaries around time, energy, and personal information. Most people blur these lines. They overshare. They explain decisions they do not need to justify. They stay in conversations and relationships longer than necessary because leaving feels uncomfortable. This creates emotional leakage. Upper class boundaries are simple and calm. They do not rush intimacy. They do not reveal personal struggles to earn connection. They do not chase approval. Friendly does not mean accessible. This matters because boundaries create stability. When people know where you begin and end, interactions become cleaner and more respectful. There is less drama, less confusion, and less emotional noise. You see this in how they say no. It is direct, not defensive. No long explanations, no guilt, just clarity. You see it in how they leave conversations without apology or discomfort. Over time, this restraint increases perceived value. Scarcity always does. When access is controlled, presence becomes meaningful. Strong boundaries are not cold. They are deliberate. And deliberate behavior signals confidence, self-respect, and quiet authority. Effortless manners. The fifth signal shows up in how someone treats others, especially when there is nothing to gain. Upper-class manners are not performed. They are automatic. Most people think politeness means trying harder, extra smiles, excessive apologies, forced friendliness. That behavior often feels tense because it is being managed in real time. Upper-class manners feel different. They wait their turn to speak. They listen without interrupting. They acknowledge people with simple, genuine attention. There is no exaggeration and no need to be seen doing the right thing. This matters because manners are a reflection of emotional security. When respect is natural, it does not need to be announced or exaggerated. There is no anxiety about how it will be received. You see this most clearly with service staff, assistants, or anyone without obvious status. The tone stays the same: calm, direct, respectful. No hierarchy in how people are treated. Over time, this consistency builds trust. People feel safe around those who are predictable and composed. Effortless manners remove friction from social interactions. True etiquette is invisible. When it is real, it blends into the background and quietly elevates everything around it. Silence around money. The sixth signal is what does not get said. Upper class behavior avoids direct discussion of money. Income, net worth, bonuses, and purchases are kept private. Most people talk about money to create relevance. They mention prices, promotions, or financial wins to signal progress. The intention is often reassurance, not arrogance. But the effect is the same. It draws attention to insecurity. Upper-class silence works differently. Money is treated as personal and socially inappropriate to display. When finances come up, the language stays vague, comfortable. Fine. We have been fortunate. No numbers, no comparisons. This matters because money talk shifts power. Revealing details invites judgment, competition, and unnecessary attention. Silence preserves control and avoids social friction. You see this most clearly in group settings. While others exchange figures or flex achievements, they redirect the conversation or listen without adding detail. Over time, this restraint signals confidence. People assume stability when there is no need to prove it. Silence becomes a form of status. The wealthiest presence in the room is often the one that lets money remain unspoken. Selective complaining. The seventh signal appears in what someone chooses to complain about. Upper-class behavior is not free of problems, but it is selective in how those problems are expressed. Most complaints people hear are emotional releases. Frustrations about prices, delays, coworkers, or daily inconveniences. These conversations bond through stress, but they also broadcast instability. Upper class complaints sound different. They are quiet, brief, and practical. If something goes wrong, it is described as a logistics issue, not a personal offense. The tone stays neutral. The goal is resolution, not validation. This matters because constant complaining signals loss of control. It suggests that circumstances are managing the person, not the other way around. Emotional volatility lowers trust quickly. You notice this in travel, work, or service situations. A delay is acknowledged and adjusted for. A mistake is noted and corrected. There is no storytelling, no escalation, no dramatizing. Over time, this emotional discipline changes how others respond. People feel safer, calmer, and more focused around those who do not turn every inconvenience into a crisis. Selective complaining is not indifference. It is restraint. And restraint is a strong status signal. An unrushed relationship with time. The eighth signal shows up in how someone moves through their day. Not slow, not careless, but unrushed. Upper class behavior treats time as something to protect, not something to chase. Most people live on tight margins, schedules packed to the minute, constant urgency, being late, rushing, multitasking, and apologizing as a routine. Over time, this pace creates stress and reactive decision-making. Upper class behavior builds buffers. They arrive early. They leave space between commitments. They plan with margin instead of assuming everything will go perfectly. This is not luxury, it is discipline. This matters because rushing signals poor control. When time constantly runs out, it suggests life is driving the person, not the other way around. Calm movement communicates stability. You see this in simple moments: walking without urgency, speaking at a steady pace, pausing before responding. There is no visible pressure to keep up. Over time, this changes perception. People trust those who seem in control of their schedule. Time abundance signals authority, composure, and reliability. An unrushed presence is not about having less to do. It is about structuring life to avoid constant urgency. Quiet self-education. The ninth signal is how someone learns. Upper-class behavior treats knowledge as a private asset, not a public performance. Most learning today is visible. Books are posted, courses are announced, opinions are shared loudly and often. The goal is usually recognition, not understanding. Upper-class learning happens offstage. They read without advertising it. They research without debating publicly. They listen more than they speak. Questions are asked quietly, not to appear smart, but to reduce blind spots. This matters because knowledge compounds best without distraction. When learning is private, it stays focused. There is no pressure to defend positions or impress an audience. Information is absorbed, not performed. You see this in conversations. They are informed without being opinionated, curious without being argumentative, comfortable saying they do not know. Over time, this creates depth. Decisions become better calibrated. Judgment improves. Confidence grows without noise. Quiet self-education signals long-term thinking. It shows someone investing in capability rather than image. The most effective learning leaves no trace, only better outcomes. No chasing popularity. The 10th signal is how someone relates to attention. Upper-class behavior does not chase approval. It allows interest to come naturally. Most people leak energy trying to be liked. They over-engage, over-message, over-post, and overreact. Popularity becomes a goal instead of a byproduct. This pursuit quietly lowers social value. Upper-class behavior avoids this entirely. They do not force connections. They do not compete for attention. They do not try to stay visible at all times. Their presence is selective. This matters because chasing signals need. Need creates imbalance. When someone appears eager for validation, power shifts away from them immediately. You notice this in group dynamics. They speak when it adds value, not to stay relevant. They leave before wearing out their welcome. They are invited more often because they do not insert themselves. Over time, this creates attraction. Scarcity always does. People gravitate toward those who are comfortable without constant affirmation. Popularity that must be maintained is fragile. Respect that comes from composure is durable. Upper-class presence is not built by being everywhere. It is built by being intentional about where attention is placed. Privacy as a form of wealth. The 11th signal is how carefully someone protects their personal life. Upper-class behavior treats privacy as something valuable, not something to trade for attention. Most people share by default: daily routines, emotions, locations, purchases, relationships. The more visible life becomes, the more opinions, judgments, and distractions it attracts. Upper class behavior moves in the opposite direction. They reveal selectively. Personal details are shared slowly and intentionally, not because they are secretive, but because exposure carries cost. This matters because privacy preserves control. When less is known, assumptions work in your favor. There is no need to manage narratives or defend choices publicly. You see this most clearly online. Minimal posting, no real-time updates, no emotional broadcasts. Life is lived offline, then reflected on privately. Over time, this restraint creates mystery, and mystery creates value. People assume importance when access is limited. Privacy is not about hiding. It is about choosing what deserves attention. In a world that rewards constant sharing, restraint becomes a quiet advantage. Protecting privacy signals self-respect, foresight, and long-term thinking. Quiet, durable consumption. The final signal shows up in how someone buys and uses things. Upper-class behavior treats possessions as tools, not statements. Most consumption today is expressive. Items are purchased to signal identity, status, or belonging. Trends rotate quickly. Upgrades happen often. Objects become part of a performance. Upper-class consumption moves differently. Choices are simple, neutral, and long-term. Quality matters more than visibility. If something works well, it is kept. If it fits a lifestyle, it is repeated. There is no need for constant replacement. This matters because frequent upgrading creates noise. It demands attention, time, and mental energy. Durable choices reduce friction and decision fatigue. You see this in clothing, technology, and daily tools. Few items, familiar systems, consistent use. Nothing flashy, but everything functional. Over time, this approach compounds. Fewer decisions, lower waste, higher reliability. Life becomes easier to manage. Quiet consumption signals confidence. There is no need to display taste when function already delivers value. Durability is not minimalism. It is restraint. And restraint, repeated over time, becomes a visible form of class. Key takeaway: none of these behaviors require money, connections, or status to begin. They are systems of self-control, restraint, and intention. Calm under pressure, clean communication, strong boundaries, privacy, and durability all signal the same thing: internal stability. That stability is what people respond to first, long before wealth becomes visible. When you understand this, the goal shifts. You stop chasing appearances and start building presence, and presence compounds quietly. If this perspective was useful, take a moment to like the video. It helps this kind of calm, practical analysis reach people who are tired of noise and ready for clarity.